我下降头发老差些了，觉得叫做些，等把正等等的些些把这什么样的，做个三件人把当小说等把得个那些，今天前把结果这个看到就往没当接的，三件正等等别叫我下降头发老差，求得叫做些我等把正等等的些些把这种，让他把做个三件人把当小说等把得个那些。今天前把结果这个看到就没当接。三界正点的别叫我下降头发往下走，我学的就不行。等把正点的现象把这种把养到我左边三界是把它上去。另外的小把今天前把结果这个看到就往当他当面当街等把三界正点的别叫我下降头发。查证了许多叫做些我看见做我觉得。사실 된다 공부한 좀 그런데 안에 이제 된다 맞죠. 대세계 발전을 자서 남다 공부 저도 이제 자서 세계 공부라 자반지 된선 공부 전에 전화 자서 생존된 받치면 되지. 생도 나와 전화 자서 되게 전화서 봐서 냐면 전전 전화 자서 공부도 이제 탐제 kim면 손놈이 연대 자서 이제 리젠션 나자 다음에 대자죠. 개회에서 내주지 제도 되는 저기 신주죠 나자. 전에 제가 때 라바다라도 신경도 많이 견뎌놔야 자서 디바치 하면서 개화부선 소바체 랑게 선의 요소들 대내선 제된 많이 감바라면 주마서 주고 면로다 된다고 되셔는 되더라도 손은 뒤에 고반던데 전전라도 가단다다 치료도 시베소는 저거를 쇼
to the teacher, the blessed one, the one going beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings who became teacher of gods and demons, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having greater compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities of a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the brink of all seeing, subdue the foe faults, and be delivered from the ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death. The quick for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I created by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Oh, yeah. So we are on the page 285, 6.
We got to 286.
Yeah, last time we read this kind of, propensities, percolates, right? So we talk about percolates. So percolates sounds like it's more like it's spreading continuously. So in Tibetan here, it's like something that dilutes, contaminates. that's more like it. It's not. And the next imbues, the goa is the imbues. Yeah. So talking about the how's it? What is the Nyumumbipacha? It's the habitual propensity of the afflictive emotions. So something that contaminates, something that dilutes, and then imbues. So as a result, it makes it follow the habitual propensity. So the propensity, so I think that kind of brings the understanding the why when the eye consciousness see things very clearly, but still, there's some kind of influence from the from the mental state that influence to the eye consciousness, which changes what you see. From the beginning, what you see something very clearly, and then the mind influence on you, and then you see things in a different way. So that's a kind of diluting, contaminating, right? And then imbues each emotionals when arises and leaves kind of the habitual habitual tendencies, right? So it lives within the mind stream. So that is imbues every emotions that arises and leaves the habitual propensities or propensity kind of tendencies. Some master they says, yeah, this is like they set the example like during the flood, it leaves the mark, right? And then the next time the water comes, it goes that way. So that's also imbuing. So the each emotions kind of leave the marks within the mind stream. So that's imbues, and and then the final base of makes it follow the habitual propensities, make it follows. So as a result of imbuing and contaminating, and then every consciousness that arises, it mimic like the previous one. It follows the so that is the so that is what we call propensity. Propensity. The propensity of afflictive emotions. In this kind of Lama Tsongkapha's commentary, the early kind of life of his commentary, and he kind of indicates the propensity is the habitual propensity is the kind of obscuration of phenomena. So, which means is the so it only can remove by Bodhisattvas, noble beings, the wisdom after having eliminated all the afflictive emotions, then the wisdom start to to overcoming the propensities. And the latter kind of part of Lama Tsongkapha's life and the commentaries, and he also says that kind of the propensity kind of divided. There's two kind of the propensities. One act like a seed. One is like very kind of stained, like when we crush the how's that garlic, and when you clean up, after cleaning up the garlic, and there's some the smell. So one remain like stained. So one can be manifest, can be can be formed in the afflictive emotions. So yeah, that's thing. And then the illustrating, page 286, illustrating by analogy how effects come into being from the cessation of actions. So we talked about this for a long time ago. So like the cessation of the karma is functional things, right? So here's the illustrations. To illustrate the point above about how effect originate from disintegrated actions. So root text says, it reads, having experienced certain things in a dream, a fool may continue to last for them even when awake. Likewise, even from the action ceased, lacking intrinsic existence, effect will come to be. So that's the root text. And then the commentaries, having perceived certain things, such as a beautiful woman in the dream, a fool may continue to last for them, and things now cease, even when he is awake. That is, even after having woke up. Likewise, even from the karmic actions ceased and also lacking intrinsic existence, effects will come to be. This illustrates how effect can arise from the karma following its disintegrations. To substantiate the point of this analogy, Chandrakirti cites the transforming to another's existing. Yeah. Huh? Transferring to another's existence sutra. Oh, sorry. So we call superiority. In the sutra, this says, "O great king, it is thus a man experience a dream wherein he is making love to a beautiful woman, were he to continue to think of that beautiful woman after waking from that dream. O great king, what would you think of this? This person who having dreamed of the making love to the beautiful woman, continue to think of that beautiful woman even after waking from sleep. Someone who has the character of learned one, the blessed one, replied to the king, this is not so, O blessed one. If the beautiful woman of his dream does not exist, and if she cannot observed, what possibility is there to experience her? Such a man will be someone who is depraved and desperate. So now it's still saying the possibility, even that thing, that woman that you dream as still not exist, but still that effect, after sleeping, there's when you wake up, there's some effects there. So that means although the karma, the action that is done, but still leaves the mark, then continuously you can have lust and anger and jealousies. Up to this sutra that presents the analogies, the following present how the analogy should be applied to this referent, O great king. Likewise, childish beings on the ordinary stage who are not yet endowed with learning, having seen forms with their eyes, manifestly cling to the form that inspire pleasure in their mind, and having clung to them, so they engender the attachment towards them. Being attached, they engage in an act with their body, speech, mind, and mind stemming from attachment and from aversions and from delusions, having executed the karmic act. The act come to cease. When these karmic acts have ceased, they do not reside in the east with the support. They do not reside in the intermediate directions. So that after having ceased, they do not reside in this direction or that direction. So wherever it's not exist, but still, brings the continuity of that mind. So not endowed with the learning here referred to not having realization of the suchness on this basis of having heard the teaching on the suchness. Manifest cling is clinging to the self-existence as for the three karmic acts of body, speech, and mind stemming from attachment. These include both virtue and non-virtuous karmic act. Karmic acts stemming from the aversions and aversion are non-virtues, while karmic acts stemming from the delusions on the accumulate both virtues and non-virtues. The statement that karmic act cease immediately after their executions is on the conventional level, while the remainder of the sutra citation rejects the cessation to exist. Such cessation to exist by virtue of an essence. So next the sutra says, then another time when the person nears the time of death, and as the lifespan propelled by karma, so that is as a commensurate with it become the exhaust and the last moment of the consciousness cease, then like the mind of the person is waking from the sleep, turning into beautiful woman he dreamed of, and the person's mind will turn towards that karma. So I think this is a whole kind of, like, what do you call it? Yeah. Supporting kind of the cessations or disintegrations are non-existent. So these disintegrations, because of the disintegration, is something that allows their continuity of that particular things. So having exhausted the karma that is commensurate, namely the karma that helps sustain continuity in this, maybe have you noticed this? The first Yeah, so maybe. Namely, the karma that helps sustain the continuity of the life of the aggregates of the same kind. When the last moment of the consciousness of this present life come to cease, then, like the lustful man who, after awaking, instantly thinks of the beautiful woman of his dream and turn his attention to her, the dying person's mind at the point of death that turn towards the karma whose potency has been reactivated, and it's therefore likely to mature in the next life. So this, however, is not an instant of remembering. This is not the memory. It is the push. It kind of leave the marks, and then things continue. So I think this is because the many times in the Nagarjunas they suggested that any presence, the present things do not go in the futures. Present do not go to the futures. Futures not come from the past. Then the question is, and how this future is continuity of that past. So then this comes. The past ceases to exist, although ceases to exist, but leaves the mark, and that the future can go on the same line. So that is the continuity. So in this way, as the last moment of the consciousness ceased, and the first moment of the consciousness that is a part of the next birth arises, and if one is going to be reborn among these celestial beings, alternatively, if one is going to be reborn among the hungry ghost. So the last moment of the consciousness, this life, when it ceased to exist, that the very eye consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, the body consciousness, mental consciousness, all cease at the time of the death. So any of those present consciousness do not go to the next life. But the first consciousness of the new life is still considered the continuity of one that has ceased to exist in the past. The cessation of the last moment of the consciousness refer to that of this life, the emerge of the first moment of the consciousness that is part of the next birth is indicated with the phrase among the celestial beings, like men, human beings die and they're born in God realms. So the God beings, the first consciousness, in humans, the last moment of consciousness. And so on, since the intermediate state does not represent any of the six realms of this existence, the first moment consciousness referred to here is that of the new birth, although in intermediate state exists between the death and the next birth, the scriptures often do not mention it. When speaking of the karma and effects, this is because primary aims is to establish the causal connections between karma and its effect from the perspective of the birth and the death. So Chandrakirti then cites the following from this same sutras. The instant the first moment of the consciousness ceases, the continuity of the mind will emerge as a commensurate with as a fruitional effect that one will come to in experience. O great king, no phenomena whatsoever is transferred from this world to the next. Yet there is the transition of the death and what manifests as rebirth. O great king, here the cessation of the final moment of the consciousness is what is called transition of the death, and the emergence of the first moment of the consciousness is what is called birth. O great king, when the final moment of the consciousness ceases, it does not go anywhere. When the consciousness that is a part of the rebirth emerges, it does not come from anywhere. So why is this so? It is because there lacked intrinsic existence, O great king. Final moment of the consciousness is empty of the final moment of the consciousness. Death and transmigrations are empty of death and transmigrations. Karma is empty of the karma. The first moment of consciousness is empty of the first moment of consciousness. Birth is empty of the birth. Yet one observe that karmic act do not corrode.
So death does not exist intrinsically. Birth is empty of birth. That's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm. The form's emptiness. The form truth, no other than emptiness. So usually the birth, when we think of the birth or something has born, we always think, born and giving rise, or arising from. There's the same, concept. So the born means, so when you conceive that birth or the born, and it's born from, so that the language that we use, born from there. So you also conceive that the very thing that newly born is coming from the past. So if something that has born that has also come from the past, so maybe it's not born. It was just, transfer, right? So when you go from here to another country, they go to Japan, you don't say, oh, he's born in Japan now. So now he's coming back and born in USA. Right? So he was just transferring, The born conceiving in that way, the birth is, then there is some kind of permanent nature in a conditional thing. So the born, the birth is empty of the birthments. So that there is, there's a, first consciousness of the next life is born. The first consciousness of the next life is born, but it is not intrinsically arising from the past, or it is not transferred from the past. So now the question is there anything that possible that we can use the language that when someone died, or he died and he goes to next life. So then they says there is, something that, that can conceive the one who has died is going to the next life, or there's appearance of the going to the next life. It appears to the mind is going to the next life. So that appearance is the basis for the language. He's going to next life.
Everything has dissolved. Consciousness of the present life is all gone, and then something new arises.
Yeah.
Maybe all gone isn't the right word.
Right now is an afternoon. The morning is all ceased to exist. So the morning is all ceased to exist. So the hour that is past, do they reappear or re-arises in the afternoon? No. And then if there's nothing from the morning goes to the afternoon. Afternoon is not coming from the morning. So why afternoon is continuity of the morning? Right. So that exactly continuity means, one, the the chain of that, the pass, one passes, another arises. So that is the continuity. There is no another meaning of the continuity is, one single entity, the repeatedly existing is not the definition of continuity. So Buddha says continuity does not mean the Gupta coming from the village, now he's going back to the village. Right? I think, if you see that, in the opposite way, going to next life means the very person who is died has to go to the next life. If this is the way, right? So, next life, and then this very person's going to the next life, and then one who has died, they also kind of, all the dead people kind of stay in the one. All the one who died is also goes to the next life. So it means the past going to meet the future. Right. Past going to meet the futures. Future is going to meet the past. So it means, past and the futures can be coexist in the time. Can futures going to meet or the contact with past or not? There is no way it passed the contact. But the very person who has died is going in the futures. So which means one who has passed is going to meet in the futures. So why not the past and the future can coexist at any time? If the past can be, coexist in a certain time with the futures, past also going to coexist with the past, right? So the father who died, why not he can meet his father? If these fathers can, go into contact with the futures, why not he can go back to the past? I think those people, some people think that the 3 times is a substantial, it exists in and of itself. So then is automatically people have the idea, oh, then this present can be go to the past. He can also go to the futures. But having go to the futures, he can also return back to the present. If this is illogical, it's not making sense, it's untenable, then what is going to pass is not going towards the future. What future, what has born in the futures is not there in the past, is not coming from the past. So the past is not in the past, and the past is also not going to, not going towards the futures. Future is not coming from the past, but still this is continuities. So the one, one idea that thinks because of the continuity, one single person is continuously can go back to the past and go into the futures. One says because of the continuity, the past, anything that passed, not going to the futures. Future is not coming from the past, but still, continuity means after present having ceased, the future manifest is the continuity. So then, if the time you can reverse the time, then 80-year-old man can go back to his teenager. Teenager can go back to the 80 years, and then he says, "Oh, this is uncomfortable. Come back to the teenagers." So if that is possible, then yes, you can. The continuity means all about one single entity. I think that's very kind of it's very funny that those people thinks that it's possible of time traveling, but they don't really see. They can go back to the youth. So they see they cannot go back to the youth time, but they still can see. So I can go back to the past. I can go to the futures. But and why? What stopped you to go back to the youth time? And someone's almost like, and if you how to say, if someone suddenly had to go to the emergency, and then he decided, oh, this is not good time, so I will go back 20 years before, so I don't have to. So each time he can return back, right? So every time the ambulance comes, he just went back now. So
Redoing that.
yeah. So maybe ambulance they will charge you. So why you call me? So I think this is really kind of there's some what to say, our presumptions had made already the kind of about the time, definition of the time, and then when you try to fit in the logic, and that's not really fitting in the logic. The presumptions that your own idea, what you can think about at the time, right? So logically, it's not really possible. So if what logically proving about the time is no past can go to the present is not going to the future is not coming from the past, and then you're stuck there. Oh, then there is no continuity, right? So the continuity does not mean about one single entity repeatedly existing. Continuity after the seed sprout, and the stems and the branches and the flowers and the fruits, and then the seed again sprout. So that is the continuity. So now the question is, anything that is already past. So what has passed? How can things happen from that? From the something that is already ceased to exist. That is the question. So then this is what the example. When you have a dream, or when you eat something, when you already eat something, right? Like morning breakfast, and that was so delicious. In the afternoon, there's the mind that think of that food again. So although that the taste of that food is gone, passes, and the experience of the taste of that is also gone, the activities all cease to exist. The why this mind, looking for that particular food that is already been eaten. So then it says that's because of that action has done, this is happening. If that action is not done, this mind is not coming, longing for that particular food. So I'm going to have this tomorrow, right? So say that disintegration of that actions, that food is still functioning. So depending on how you find the tasty of that, as if you find it's very, very tasty, and then maybe this mind, how's that, craving for that food for several days. So if you see some kind of, place, the beautiful place in a dream, and then if you're so attracted to that place or the thing, and after the dream has stopped, ceased to exist, and something that resides in your mind, for many times. So these are whole continue from that cessations of that dream. So the why not cessations will continue. Before the process of cessations, before it's going to be ceased, that process. So, in the sutra there says, act of dying perform two things, brings the death and continues the effect. the great king, when the final moment of consciousness, that's a final moment of consciousness referring to the this life, right? This life, final moment of consciousness. And the first consciousness is next life's, the first consciousness. So the now the kind of the idea of the, you know, so they're saying the final moment of consciousness, because it's the final moment of consciousness. Right after that event, moment, it will cease to exist. So it will cease to exist, therefore it is not going to reappear. And then next life, the first consciousness is the first consciousness. It wasn't there in the past because it is the first. So now you have to say this first consciousness and this last consciousness is a continuity. So this continuum means this last moment of the consciousness ceased to exist, then that first consciousness of the next life, begins. So then what is the sign of the continuity of that, consciousness which has already ceased? All the influence, propensity is still there. So all the propensity in continuing with new consciousness, that is, and say, it's not a memory, it's not remembering what you have ate, what you have seen, what you like. It's not remembering, but it's a habitual experience in there. So therefore, because of the habitual experience, propensity, and this, the first consciousness is, formed after this last moment of the consciousness ceased to exist. So that always preceded by that particular consciousness. So therefore, it's a continuity. Any questions? So sometimes you see. So what we were thinking, from the ordinary, from the ordinary way, what we think continuity is, continuity means one, very identity that's without losing its identity is keep happening, right? So the birth is empty of the birth, and yet one observes that karmic act do not corrode. Although karma has ceased to exist, do not corrode, right? Morning breakfast that you have ate was so delicious. That cessation of that breakfast, the taste of that, the cessation, the taste of that breakfast already ceased to exist, but do not corrode.
When it says here that death is empty of death and birth is empty of birth, is that pointing to continuation? Or is it just talking about?
Yeah, you can say the intrinsic, empty of intrinsic. Yeah.
Empty of
Yeah.
So it's just like you said. Everything is empty of intrinsic.
Yeah. So food, after finished eating, do not corrode. It's not going to be discontinued. So that is very, very obvious. So because every time we have to go to restaurant, so after eating, so that's it's not a dissipating. And then the taste that you also remain in the mind, right? That brings the habit of eating. If someone who's find tasty and spicy, they always look for spicy. So sweet, they always look for sweet. So everything that you have ate, the taste, that everything ceased, but it continues in your mind. So these are the what called imbues in the stream of mind. So dilutes or imbues in the stream of mind as a result that every consciousness follows the path. So then you can say that's why the history repeats all the time. Wherever we're born, we can there is if something attractive, attach, and unattractive, detach. So these are all from the the afflictive, the propensity from the afflictive emotions.
Might somebody make a counter argument and say that it has ceased, so the breakfast that you ate has ceased, but could they maybe say, oh well, but it has corroded because you don't remember it as clearly? Or does that go back to what you had said before, where it's not the same as remembering? Or is that might have been dealing when you were talking about with like the flood and how the dream? I think that might be something different. So then I guess my question is, would like somebody make a counter argument that it is corroding because you can't perfectly remember the taste of the breakfast, or you can't bring it back? It has dissipated a little bit.
So I think here that's right now here is talking about imbues and the dilutes or habituate within the stream of the mind. So therefore it's not corroding, right? So now it's not talking about it's corroded because you don't remember exactly what you ate.
Okay.
It's not corroded because it leaves the habit.
Okay.
It leaves the habit. So that leaving the habit in the stream of the mind is, again, this leaves the mark in the mind. So whatever that lives in the mark of the mark in the mind, stream of the mind, and every consciousness follow kind of almost like a similar habit from the past. So anything that passed is not going to corrode because history repeating there.
Okay.
So that's the mean. It's not talking about how clear you remember. It's not talking about. That's why if you remember that, means the cessations and the continuity is not a remembering.
Right.
And the continuity is not about the remembering.
Right.
So you can get angry with cat, and as a result of that habitude, when you see the dog, you get angry.
Right.
So that is also habitual, kind of continues from getting angry to the cat, and still that continue getting angry to the dog.
There's something nagging at me here, and that is the use of the word habit. And the use of the word mark. Because I'm thinking it is said, because I have no recollection, we can go to a different realm. We can become a different sex, whatever that means, whatever we is, because ultimately everything is empty and without identity. And if everything is empty and only free of identity on an absolute basis, but yet we're talking, I believe, on just a relative basis here. Mark just suggests, like you say, some kind of continuity, and yet that continuity doesn't seem to necessarily survive the way we might think. I mean, we can change sex, presumably.
You want?
Whatever we is, I don't know what we is, and we can change even form to formless. We can go from formless to form, from formless to desire. I mean, all these from male to female, from female to male. I mean, what kind of mark are we really talking about here?
I'm male to
It's
female.
very mysterious.
I think you're kind of, so you don't like that word of mark. So I think you should tell me which word should I use, to resemble the continuity.
Well, to be truthful, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, well, if I was one of the students of physics who understood the theory of relativity and the nature of warped space, I would say there may in fact be some evidence that it's not evident to me in this state that time does exist and it's not what I think. Yes, it's true. From our logic and our rules of our current experience, this all sounds quite correct. But if you take someone who's a student of physics, and I hate to interject this, but I will nonetheless, you have studied a capture. This is not going to sound pretty bizarre to people, I admit. You captured UFO, and there's some records this has happened. There are apparently beings that experience space and time in a very different way than we do. And maybe what's logical to us, that logic may actually cease in another context. And this experience we're having here may be much more dreamlike than we suspect and not really obey our rules of logic. We may be caught in a kind of logic in our own dream. I don't deny that. This may be in the area of dreamlike logic, which has no ultimate truth. I have to consider this, that maybe I'm functioning in a world right now with certain apparent laws of continuity, and yet some things nonetheless don't make sense to me. And I'm aware of some things that from a different perspective may be looked at quite differently than the way we're talking about them. I know that's kind of cheating to bring these things up, but I am bringing them up.
Anyway, this is the kind of what we can lays out the reasoning to the understanding the understanding of the continuities. Now we are two options. Are we going to accept the continuity of, about the one single entity repeatedly happening in 3 times, or something else? The two things. If you go with continuities, so about the one single entity repeatedly happening in 3 times, so it means it's traveling from the past to the present to the futures. So if this is really possible, so I want to go back to the youth, right? When I have, hearing problem, I want to go back to the time where I have my ears very sharp. So it's possible because, time can go back and forth. So if this is not possible, any present, right? Any present is not going to be able to, not able to kind of transfer or the kind of go to the past. The future is not there in the present. So therefore, future cannot come from the past. Then what you mean by, and your kind of what you mean by the continuity. So then it says, the barley seed that cease to exist. The sprout is the continuity of the barley seed. The sprout, which is never really exist there during the seed. The seed is one of the continuity of the sprout, but the seed that is never really exists, during the time of the sprout, but still continuity. So in this way, a continuity is one sees follows another's. Now we have to bring the rules of, do you see the tomato continues to the apple continue to the orange continue onion? Is it, is there any possible? Then we say, this is not the continuity, right? So, so then here, the continuity is in ordinary state of the second existence, the continuity is pretty much, carried or propel or brings with the propensity. So what is the propensity here is that dilutes, that contaminates, and then, and how this dilutes and continues the stream of mind, then says each emotional, so when it active, it leaves the habit within the mind stream. And then another emotion comes. That also leaves the imprints there. So the imbuing and diluting is the function of the propensity. And then the result of that, by diluting, imbuing, and what happened? And then consciousness repeating, like repeating means, following the same history, same habit. How many, like the eons and eons ago, we still, like to project something, when we get attached, even there's attractiveness is not there, but you can project 100% attractiveness on the things. Even the person has no negative, nothing really, never really, there's no history of this person has caused harm to you or any reason that he will come to me in the future, but I can project he is 100% negative. So I can get angry. Even the person never know me. I don't know him, but I can, I can project that person is bad. I can get angry. So now this whole is, the habit that is we have this from the many lives. So this habit can, because the propensity of that can project things and then get angry, and that ceases to exist. That leaves the habit again, and again you can project things. So this is So here, the two, here we are talking about two subjects trying to combine the propensity and the continuities. Now the continuity is also in the noble beings, in the Buddha. So their continuity is not because of propensity, right? So Buddha's the continuity of the mind, the continuity of perceptions, because every consciousness of the Buddhas perceive things as it is, that experience, and then another consciousness, the future consciousness, mind of the Buddha, also sees the things as it is. So that's how it continues.
Yet, we talk about exhaustion, the exhaustion of karma, the final, complete exhaustion. So somehow, I know we talk about how things eventually exhaust, but I still don't get what would cause, first of all, what this mark is, what exactly this mark is. It's action. It seems to have to do with that when karma gets translated as action. And these kind of, we're saying things on so many levels at once without realizing it. We're saying things are empty of real existence, and yet these marks have to do with action, and they don't. And these actions can continue. The marks can deepen. The seeds can multiply, or somehow they can completely exhaust. And now we're in the boomies. And it's just so mysterious to me. And we can change maybe at least how it's talked about conventionally, sex, state. So what kind of marks are these? Always these marks have to do with action. So the action is something beyond sex. The action has consequences beyond state of existence, because we're not being reborn as humans necessarily, unless we have enough merit, and it's very hard to really understand how all these things can interrelate.
Yeah, it's not really easy, but we have to, I think when we follow the logic reasonings, and then, so whatever the logically, establishing, destroying, dismantling, so we should go with that, So this logic continuities, Narayana's and the Prasanga's could not. So continuity, there is no one single entity repeatedly existing in the time. So that continuity is, logically we're rejecting, refuting. It's not because of emotionally we're rejecting. It's logically, disapproving that. So logically disapproving and emotional rejections is, totally two different things. So now, when it comes in, when we, for example, if someone asks me to go to the certain place where, different religions we talk, then we cannot say logically disapprove. So then the diplomacy comes. Oh, This is what we think the continuity is. So, about the one thing's continuity existing. But in my mind, I understand the continuity means it's not about repeating about one single entity, but, so not to harm. So kind of, it's not logically disapproving. There is someone who is, faithfully holding on that idea, and then we bring kind of disprove through the reasoning. It's not going to benefit to the person, but rather it's harmful to that. So we just bring, this is what we believe, and we are all same. We also believe you all believe coming from the God, and then continuously, exist and can go back to the God, right? And we also say that it's not the God, but it is karmically we are cycling the samsara. We repeatedly exist. So through the faith you can find a God, and through the real wisdom, so we can end the cycle existence. So the meaning is the same. So right now we are talking about the logic. What logically makes sense? Logically makes sense. So if you go with the believing the continuity about one single entity repeatedly existing, so then one single entity can, from the present to go back to the past, and the present to go to the futures, from the future to return back to the present. So, if that is, maybe you can wish it, you can desire for that, but if that is possible, and then why not? The old man can go back to youth age. A youth age says, "Oh, I'm too young. I want to get older a little bit. I want 30 years old, 40 years old." And then he said, "Oh, 40 years old is not fun. I'm going to go back to the 20 years old." So this is not logically, approvable. So then we have to find what is the what is the things are not really transferring from the time to time, but what is the meaning of the continuity in that sense, right? So the continuity means, there's a continuity in ordinary sentient beings we call cyclic existence, cycling, samsara. So the continuity is the continuity of the life with propensity. So there is history repeating, is very much from the influence and habitual from the habit, propensity of the afflictive emotions, anger and attachment and jealousies. So these, and how these each emotionals kind of leave the imprints within the stream of the mind, and then they says this is like so the each emotionals leave the mark means as I mentioned earlier that when there's the flood coming in this kind of valley, and this time the flood leaves the mark, and then all the waters come down, and next year in the summer again the flood comes. So it goes with previous mark. So this is what we call mark and propensity, the habituals. It looks like the same. And then so another thing is so the habitual propensities means right now what from this example what we can understand, like tomorrow angers is it manifests from the propensity of the yesterday angers, and yesterday angers is manifest from the propensity of the day before. So in this way, that you can trace back to the next life and next life, next life. So now the question is, all this manifests from the past. Do they remember? Are these a memory? And then say, it's not a memory. The habituals are not a memory. It's not remembering. But it kind of, it leaves the kind of the habit of doing this. Getting angry with the cat and getting angry with the dog, getting angry with the dog, getting angry with the elephant and the human being. So the habit is still there. So now so far the habitual propensities talks about, it's almost like functioning like a seed, barley seed to the barley sprout, that leaves another barley seed, another barley sprout. In this way, the propensity become a seed. So then the arhat who has eliminated all the afflictive emotions, but here they say arhat has the propensity of the afflictive emotions. So do they possess, the seed of the afflictive emotions? Is it possible for their mind to manifest any kind of negative emotions? Then we say no. So this is why the later commentary of the Lama Tsongkapha so divided that, one propensities act like a, like stain, like, and one propensities act like a seed. So it's dormant and manifest, the dormant and manifest. So another is like the residue, the kind of, it's like a stain. Like, so the arhat do possess this kind of propensities, the habitual from the negative emotions. So this is why Buddha is even the Vinaya text kind of makes the rules for even the Arahat Sanghas. So there is the possible of Arahat Sangha may violate monastic rules. So not because of their negative emotions, because of the propensity.
It's obvious that propensity is related to habit. But would you make any distinction at all between the words propensity and habit?
Can you say that again?
It's clear that propensity and habitual repetition, those two words, habit and propensity, are related.
Mm-hmm.
But would you make any distinction at all between the terms propensity and habit?
Propensity in habits is almost like, propensity. So in Tibetan, we call pacha. So a habit, the propensity is, I think there's even the good habits, habit that can be habit of kind, habit of habit of saying nice. These are habit. The habitual kind is not really. It's kind of this is also the propensity. Is a propensity. So because of the mind that is emotionally attached. So some people have told from the culture, the parents, saying nice is good. So you have to be nice person. You have to be good persons. You have to look good. Everybody, treat you, with respect. So then mothers, the parents, they keep telling them and try to say things nice. So then there's the habit of saying nice things. So that's also the propensity. There's some kind of, if there's no emotional involved, and the habit cannot be. So in the Bodhisattvas, the mind training, the one of that is try not to be, how's that? So there's one mind training is say, try not to be nice. There's one thing, It's not because this is good, therefore you try to be nice. So in this way, if you habit, so then something that necessary to act, more aggressive, because you don't want to do that, even that necessary, because you have a habit of being nice. So, and then sometimes, just because of the people's impressions, you show nice. So that is, the Bodhisattva is kind of, from the mind training, it become deceitful. Just because of the people's eye, and I try to be nice. So don't attach to be nice. So yeah, and that anyway, I said the propensity is the habituals is same thing in that case.
Okay, now we have this phrase in English saying someone acted out of character. That means they acted uncharacteristically or contrary to their ordinary habit. Now, I mean, even like Buddha, like Dai Situ, let's say, if he didn't have some, at least it appears to us to be a propensity, we wouldn't be able to recognize him as Dai Situ at all. Or we wouldn't be able to recognize you or anyone else. Without propensities, we can't recognize any human or animal characteristic, because we recognize through identifying an existing pattern. But sometimes someone, whether it's a Buddha or it's an ordinary being, will act out of character, meaning they will act contrary to what we've become accustomed to expect. And we can be quite shocked. Now, that obviously could be due to some karmic seed has been triggered, or I suppose it could be the result of an enlightened activity meant to shock us out of our normal habit. So how do you explain out of character behavior? And related to these terms, habits and propensity.
Out of character behavior. So the characters. So who accept, the one who accept, I'm in the characters. So the women's characters, men's characters, rich characters, the poor characters, so which means mentally accepting some kind of thing. So with that, and you have to go act, from that characters. So that's the kind of pretty much like there's it's not the, I don't know, it's main characters, so anything that he act out of characters, he act like a female, So when Larry started to using the makeup and putting the lipstick, then also you are out of character today. So how you?
Yeah, but let me give an example. Say you don't generally scold me, and it appears that I've done nothing unusual, but today you scold me. You scold me very toughly. It's out of character. And I mean, there could be many reasons you scold me. You could be scolding me to protect me, something I don't recognize, or something I do recognize to protect me from someone else and cause me to appear to another party a certain way as a way of protecting me. It's kind of, there's our day-to-day habits, and then there's much more subtle things that may appear to be out of character. Are those?
I think that's the way of language. Yeah, this is sometimes language, just the language, the way you use the language. Sometimes some people do things, rarely, and people say it's out of character. So mother rarely get angry and scold and beat the children, but still she is in the mother's character. But son can say, you're out of character, because you normally don't do this. So this is just the way of language says, oh, this is you're coming out of the pattern, so your pattern has stopped yet. So the out of characters, they be characteristically, doing things are not necessarily the habit. Like the animals, for example, like cow, babies, they're born right after they kind of standing up, and they go to the milk. So it's out of habit. It's not a habit. With character, yes, as a cow baby, so they just naturally, there's no need to teach that cow to go to the milk. Right? So it's with character, it's not out of habit. So the characters, not necessarily be habit, and the habit can create the characters. So you put a certain habit and become so accustomed, so so fluent, and within you, people kind of catch this is your character. So if you do something out of that character, people may say you're out of characters, right? So I think that depends on, sometimes out of character is because of the other person's, other person's the way they sees. This is your pattern. Now you are coming out of that. Or you think this is my pattern because in this way I do these things. If danger, I do this. And that someone is when I see someone is suffering, I act this. This is my pattern. So now they're saying the habit of knives can create the characters. So that characters is no different from propensity, the habit, because the habit that you choose to follow that, and you just put in yourself. So now it's saying that, recognizing everything is habitual propensity. No. Anything that you recognize, not necessarily out of propensity. So the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, and particularly say, wisdom realizing emptiness, recognize everything is absence of intrinsic existence. It's not out of propensity. And then through the smoke, understand there must be fire. It's not a propensity. sometimes so depending on how do you really define the characters. So in this, Lama Tsongkapha here, in the essence of eloquence also mentioned this, the propensity, bhakcha. Propensity means, diluting the stream of the mind, or contaminating, or, leaving the imprints of the mark in the mind stream. And then, by diluting, contaminating, leaving the footprints in the mind, and therefore every mind manifests from there, it is repeating of the previous one. Right? So that's why it's called propensities. Bhakcha, Tibetan kunya. Bhakcha.
Is
Bhakcha.
there a difference between pachak and pachok?
Pakchok is the prayer flag. So, Pakcha. And then Lama Tsongkapha also says, Pakcha means, in Tibetan it says, Bhagavad-chevas. Bhagavad-cheva means, when you kind of step on this muddy, something that touches, contaminates you. It's kind of, so that's Bhagavad-chevas. Simply, Bhagavad-cheva, mind stream, contaminate, make it dirty. Bhagavad-chevas. Gaur-chevas. And second, he says, Gaur-cheva means leaving. Each emotional manifest leaves the habit. And then another emotional, again, because of that, it makes the habit stronger and stronger and stronger, like that. So because of that result, contaminating, kind of, making the habit stronger and stronger from repeating many times, and then most of the mind emerged from that habit is almost, kind of act like similar in the past. So like, 100 times we died, 100 times we born, and there's always what we have done this life is attached, anger, jealous, and then, sometimes compassion, sometimes nice, sometimes very negative. And then we die, and next life again do the same things, attached, anger, jealousy. So that's kind of, there's some kind of repeatedly, a character repeating.
Because it almost seems like the way to loosen, for example, the mental state, the emotional state that brings about that habituation.
Yeah.
Is the kind of the thought to be loosening the attachment to that emotional state by saying, oh no, this moment or this emotional response right here, it's not its own thing. Like it seems to make sense to me that it's like, oh well, this only happened because like I got upset in the past. Like I've always heard that that's kind of like, oh, like that's the way to approach maybe changing
Habits, yeah.
Right.
So now, this was in the stated in the text also. So keep repeating. Does that mean, repeating the same things? Does that mean, is there any possible remember what you have done in the past? So then it said, no, it's not about the memory. It is the habitual kind of, you just influence the mind in this particular directions. So you have influenced the mind by, in the directions of when you are not happy, when you're a little bit annoyed, and you have a tendency to project on the things and more negative things. By projecting it, and you have a tendency or habit of disliking. And then, some people, dislike and they don't say. Some people dislike, they want to say. And some people not just want to say, they want to move their head, right? So, legs and hands. Some people roll their eyes, rolling eyes. So this is kind of, there's, then this person is when he is happy, and when he is happy, and he, there's the, he influences his mind when happy, projects things and more nice and positive things. And by projecting more positive, and he have a habit attached to it, right? So this is kind of, there's a kind of, the also, you have mentally familiarized in the many directions. So you familiarize, in the directions of projecting negative, don't liking it, projecting positives and having clinging to it, right? So, and again, the most powerful habit that's even in the sleep, you dream sleep, that habit that never really, loosen up is having attached to myself. So that attachment is not the sometime, it's every moment. So having attached to myself. So then, now the question is, so what you judge on the things, and according to that attachment. So the most important is, what I feel is, I always judge from it. And the second, the way I attach things on the, this yellow colors, this, blue colors, and then I also judge from there. So, right. So do you ever judge things? Most of the time we do not judge out of that characters, having attached to myself, what I feel. I don't really kind of, I don't really ignore what I attached to myself. So that is almost impossible. I cannot leave that, right? And now, so if everything is out of habit you're doing, so is there any possible you can really see things as it is? So remaining with that habit is almost impossible. You can see things as it is, because you always judge from your habit. So that's why, says, even the eye consciousness, like see things really, very clear, but still your mind says, oh, this is not really good. It's something that is very clean, but still your mind wants to say it's not clean enough. Something looks very beautiful, and you don't want to say it's beautiful enough. So that your mind is influencing, kind of influence, right? Influence to the, even for the sensor. And if sensor perceptions has the quality of see things as it is, but that also contaminated by that habit. So then, sensor perception, mental consciousness is already overpowered, hijacked by this habit. And even that influence to the sensor perceptions. So almost there, you have no way to see things as it is. So how can that be, there be the possible of being the target? So then that's why we say use the reasoning. The reasoning many times against you with your habit. And one time, 2 times, 3 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times. Then it shakes the habit. And then you caution to the habit. So that's how you can change the habit. So you can fight back to the habit. So without inferential cognizers or inferential inference, right? So without relying on inference, you cannot really go against with your habit.
So now we're getting into the term cultivation. And as I understand it, when we use this word within the context of the six perfections, we're cultivating. You can say we're cultivating better habits or virtuous habits that will create more beneficial results. So a habit itself isn't a dirty word at all.
Yeah.
I think that's very important to realize, that habit itself is not by itself a dirty word. It's more of a question of whether that action, habitual action, is virtuous, unvirtuous, or neutral. But now we're cultivating something more positive to replace, our more negative, what's the word here? Proclivities, habitual behaviors. But now, in addition, you're layering an additional thing on it, and that seems to be through inference to observe what our habits are and get beyond our habits. I mean, in Enigma, the approach would, of course, be different, would be to rest in the unconditioned state itself as a way of freeing ourselves. So what is the trick? We're trying to replace the negative. We're trying to cultivate better habits. And at the same time, we're trying to be free of all habit whatsoever, even the things we're replacing it with. Correct?
Yeah.
So what is the
Trick.
What is the trick in doing that? How do we do that? I mean, we're trying to do these two things kind of simultaneously, and one is preferable to the other. It's preferable to be untainted by habit altogether, I think. So how do we go about this?
You do this. This is the trick. so trick to replace the negative things is to fire the negative. So, I think habit is not necessary to be the bad things. I think the habits, good habits that accepts the religions, the culture, the traditions. So supposedly that particular religions, culture, the traditions is beneficial to the community or to the particular community, and people accept. By accepting it and following that tradition, cultures, and people have the notions. This is the nice. This is the good things, right? So I think that's how one of the habits is, because of that habit. So they can, the habit can sustain the culture, the traditions. So now, yes, the habit and culture, the tradition is, without that, there is no attainment of the liberation, enlightenment, Buddha. So now I think the habit in the culture is you have to use to go beyond that. By using it to go beyond that, like using the boat to go get to the shore of the ocean. So if you attach to the culture, attach to the culture, you sink in, you just be in that culture, and maybe the good thing is happening, but it's also bad thing is happening. So this is not the perfect. The culture is not the perfect one, or it is. There is no guarantee it can really gives you the permanent state of peace, but it can help you to a certain way, a certain time, a certain way, the positive things, happiness, the friends, the relations. So, so that's the thing. And then you says the what is the trick for that? So the trick is to go beyond the culture. What is the trick to go beyond to the culture, and again relying on using maximum way to kind of to reason out, to try to understand through the reasoning many times. So that, I think that's the best trick so far. Always use the reasoning. Sometimes again, the reason as also has side effects. So sometimes the reason we call tinsi tarna, tinsi tarna. Tinsi tarna means maybe you can like tarna is facsimilar, like a very like it looks like a valid reasoning. It kind of says it makes sense, but that the whole reasoning is not really stand on the valid there's no really for example, if I say use like in Dharmakirti use like when you look at the tree, the fruit tree, and then they pointing to the one particular fruit. So this must be sweet because yesterday I picked one fruit from that tree. The color and the shapes is very similar. So therefore, this fruit must be the same, tasty as yesterday. So that kind of looks like because you use yesterday experience, right? You have witnessed that, you have directly experienced that, taste that, and you also directly, perceive the color, the shape. So this hole in this particular fruit that you haven't really touched yet. So that sometimes when you pick that, you eat, you find sour. So your whole reasonings is, what do you call it? Dharma is a facsimilar, kind of very similar to the valid reasoning, but there's something missing. So each reasonings, the Dharmakirti says, chulsums, reasoning, establishing the whatever is constituting through that reasonings has to follow with three streams. One, the correctly, unmistaken understanding, the reasoning and the subject that you are trying to constitute, right, has to be relations, unshakable relations. The second, the reason and the predicate, has perfect relationship, and there is no, a mistake. And the third, the reason that you are trying to establish, for example, if you're trying to establish the body as impermanent, So, the reason what you said, is the product. So the reason has to go opposite to the unproduct. There's always permanent, not impermanent. So if these three, with these three character, the reasoning is anything established is valid and reliable. So if you go with one side reasoning and then sometimes go right, sometimes go wrong, many times go wrong. So the one two, I think, syllogism in the syllogisms. So with three characteristics, three characters. So if you go with one, and there's always possible go wrong. And the two characteristic, again, the possible go wrong. Three characteristic has to be there. Each reasonings. So
can you give some examples, like with not only the second one, but the permutations where of each, where one could be right, two others could be wrong, you get the wrong conclusion, or two will be right and one will be missing and you come to the wrong conclusion?
I have three sacks. One is empty, one is filled with gold, another is stone. So which one do you want? So, my right sack with red sack. So almost like my experience is like that. So here are the saying, syllogistic reasonings, and particularly syllogistic reasonings, the subject, predicate, and reasonings. This is the reasonings. Through what reason you're trying to understand the body is impermanent. So you cannot say a body exists, therefore it is impermanent. Existing is not the reasoning to constitute body is impermanent. So then it may go wrong. The existing means the permanent, impermanent, both are existence. So with existing, you cannot, constitute body is impermanent. So therefore, you have to use, the product or produced from the cosmic conditions. Something that is born from the cosmic condition. Therefore, it is impermanent. So they produce from the cosmic conditions with the subject, then automatically it directs to the impermanent. So then the second line you say is, anything born from cosmic conditions must be impermanent. And then like weathers, trees, they are elements. Right? So then you say that. So then you see the first, the reason and the subject is correct. It's one, correctly set to, direction to impermanence. And then the second reason produced from cosmic condition in the impermanence is unshakable, indestructible relationships. Always. This has to be always, not sometime. Then third kind of side of that, being produced from cosmic conditions never really found in opposite of impermanent, which is the permanent. So no permanent has born from cosmic conditions. So making sure of these three, and then anything you would constitute from one synergistic reasoning, and that always what called inferential, the valid inferential. Like body is impermanent, it's because they produce from cosmic conditions. That is, and you cannot say body is impermanent because it exists. Right. And and then the you also you also can say like, oh, body is impermanent because it was, because it was there in the house, or it was there under the, tree. So something exists somewhere is not the reason to establish something is impermanent. Because this can go wrong, because it was there means, is advantageously something is there. So, and then in that way, the cessations, many characteristics like non-elephant, or absence of heat. So the absence of heat is, is it what do you call an advantageous thing. So absence of heat is somewhere it exists, somewhere it not exist. Right. So it's sometimes is not the reason that you can establish something is impermanent. So every time the reason has to be perfectly go with subject, and this reason and this predicate has to have a perfect relationship. So then in all time there's some non-Buddhist they says, some Dharmakirti says there is three kind of valid reasonings. Other than three, there is no fourth. And then some master says, there is fourth. What is the fourth? For example, this particular field, consist with seed and fertilizers, all complete this particular field. So, going to give rise, the barley sprout or the rice sprout, because this is the complete field. So then this kind of reasoning is, the predicate is the effect. Predicate is, for example, is going to give rise the barley, means the barley sprout is the predicate. So from this field is going to produce the barley sprout. Barley sprout is what they think is the predicate. So if this is the predicate, and then when you set up the whole kind of syllogistic reasoning, so it comes to it comes to saying that for sure this field is going to give rise to barley sprout. Is certainty. Is certainty. It's like, for example, this is the girl, and she's going to give birth of the son, because she is, daughter of certain mothers. So what this suggesting is, she's going to give birth of the son. So, and non-Buddhist school says this reasoning is the valid reasoning, but is not included in the three kind of sets of reasoning. The reasoning of the, reasoning from the result, effect, reasoning from the natures, reasoning from negations, right? So this words is the reasoning, so this is what the non-Buddhist school thinks. This is how you set the reasonings. So the Dharmakirti says, it's going to give rise. It's going to give rise is when say this field is going to give rise this particular sprout. So the predicate has to be suitable to be give rise, not the certainty to give rise. So this is how, yeah. So you can say, because of the, this is the female, she is suitable, it's possible she can give birth son or the daughter. But if there is no reason that say for sure she is going to give birth this particular son or the daughter. It's always possible because the cause and the conditions, in order to give rise to effect, cause and the conditions has to go through the process of changing. The process of changing, which means there's the possible obstacles, through that processing. So if I open this door, I will come open this door. So when I'm sitting in my room, I come to go open this room. So in order to open this room, I have to step, walk, few steps I have to go. So if I say I'm going to open this door in 3 minutes or 1 minute, so I can go and within the 1 minute because I have to go through the step. So if I stumble, so there is in that process there is the possible of failing or kind of facing obstacles. So and I can only say it's possible, it's suitable, I can, or it is possible I can open the door within 1 minute or 2 minutes. Right. So that when the cause and the conditions has to go through the process, long process, in order to give rise to the result. So then you cannot you cannot say it is sure, it is certain it is going to give rise. Because to come to that point, giving rise of the sprout, it has to go through the many process. Within the process, it can face the obstacles. Can come, the bird can come pick the seeds, or the pig can come, or the bird can come, or it can dry it without no water, right? So it's any possible. So any reason they use trying to, constitute from the assembly of the cause and condition, you can only predict the possibilities or suitable. But there is no any reason that you can say it is certain to give rise. So the giving rise to the effect is not about your predicate is not the effect. Predicate is the possibility. Right.
I think you just sort of answered my last question, because my last question has to do with we can believe we're cultivating something, like we're cultivating more equanimity, for example. And equanimity is not just subject to cultivation. It can be subject to hormones and old age. You're just not as volatile as you were when you were younger. So you can delude I could delude myself, let's put it that way. I could delude myself that I've cultivated myself to have more equanimity. But, if there's continuity, there is some kind of I'll use the word rebirth, a conventional term. I mean, I think we've all known lamas who, when they were young, they were more volatile. And then just like any other beings, as they age, the soil changes. Their personality changes.
Yeah.
Comes down.
I think that because every human beings, because there's no free from that habitual propensities. So they also follow and accept the cultures. The culture that, oh, now you are old, you cannot do that. So, oh, yes, I'm old now. So the old person has something to do. I follow that culture. So if there is no culture of that, or you are old, you are young. So, you do things that, some certain things they do, the certain things they don't do because of the youth. Or certain things that do youth and old people do not do. Right? So maybe like if jumping and climbing up the trees, then it's not a culture. It's the ability of the body, right? So, oh, what happened to Larry is freezed. Your picture got freezed. So far today, we're saying the propensity is no different from the habit. So habit, the propensity can be virtues, propensity, non-virtues propensities. Even the propensity is very much related to the attachment. So the virtuous thing can be done with attachment, non-virtues done with attachment. So therefore, because of the propensity of the habitual kind of things, so there is a good habitual propensity. So there we accept the culture, the tradition, the religion things, right? So that without that propensities, so there is no any condition to accept the certain culture, certain traditions. So and then so therefore religion or the culture or the traditions, although is no different from the propensity, therefore it is not 100% reliable, right? So why we say it's not 100% reliable, because every sentient beings by natures they always want perfect and permanent state of peace. So they do not satisfy any happiness, any peace. They want more and more and more. They want you to be forever happy. So if these desires cannot be fulfilled by habitual cultural traditions. So culture and tradition can help you for a period of time, for a certain way to bring happiness, the calm and peace. But the cultural traditions is no different from the propensity. Therefore, it is not going to fulfill the desire to want to be forever happy. So for that happiness, the permanent state of happiness, you have to go beyond the religion, beyond the culture, beyond the traditions. Beyond the culture, tradition means it's not abandoning the culture, abandoning the religions. So, what is religiously taught to you, you know more than that. What culturally, taught you in the positive things, you know much, much deeper, much, much settled in something that is no culture has taught you, no religion has taught you. So go beyond that. So religiously free from the religion is the best. So you're not against, but you know much, much deeper, settled than what religion can teach you. So And then Larry was talking about the characters. The characters maybe, sometimes is habitual, sometimes is, is the characters is in the nature, kind of elementally designed. There's certain characters, like the cow, how's that? Cow baby will cough, right?
Mhm.
So the born and being able to stand up, and then right away they try to go to milk. So it's not a habitual. There is no habit. So maybe wanting to drink something, hungry may be habit, but but being able to find go under that kind of directions. So I think it's physically. This is how the physical design. And then Lama Tsongkapha, they also said that, maybe it's 424. So we have a long way to go, okay?
Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, Majeba Najeju, Kebanya, Bambanya, Kone, Pebbles, Tonya Tawa Rinpoche, Majeba Najeju, Kebanya, Bambanya, Kone, Pebbles, Pama Simjetam, Data Denji, Rotam Jeta, Tonga, Chanju Simba, Kana Sushu, Tadako, Mono Juju, Carrera Roko Vishimazo, Panda, the woman, Ju, and Jereza, Tinja, Shabeside Badu, Danger.
May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all Father and Mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all the lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred and surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Chandrakirti Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world until sunset.
Thank you very much. Thank you.